Welcome back to Big Board. All right, it's getting involved now. We're in the middle of turn 3, which would be day 5 and 6 of the Soviet invasion of Sweden in 1985, looking at deadly northern lights. So the turns are now taking a substantial amount of time more to execute. Not because I've got to move a lot of units or do a lot of things, but because you're thinking through how can I do what I want to do, and what's the most A, efficient way to do it, and B, effective way to do it, and C, which of the 3 options that I have to execute on a particular plan is best, and what has to happen before I do that particular thing. So that's a fascinating little exercise. Basically, every time you want to move something. So, the beginning of the turn, there was a little bit of gaminess going on for each player. There's a sort of a game within a game when you start allocating air superiority counters. So the Soviets put down one first, and of course they want to put one down here. Because they want control of this area, so they can. That's where they've got their landing and their ports and all the rest of it. So they don't want, the NATO forces to have control there. Now, of course, if they didn't put one there and NATO did put one there, it could still be contested, and they could still win control of it. But it would be complicated. It just you want to just put the marker down where I want to have control. So. And in fact, that's an interesting point that I don't know that I've checked. If someone else puts a air superiority marker down and they lose, does that mean that the other force automatically gets to keep that as their air superiority area? And what if they had more than that? I don't think that's how that works. When I say more than that, I mean you're given, let's say, 2 air superiority markers. You can't have 3 air superiority areas, is my understanding of the rule. So now I've just gone off to the deep end as I self-doubt myself. So let's skip that little section, and I probably should edit that out of the video, but I'm not going to because I want to get this done. Look, interesting turn. We have a convoy that's delivering supplies. We had a task force that had migrated back, picked up an armored division, this 40th Guard armored division here, and it was sailing through. But as we allocated all of these air superiority areas, which is the point I was trying to make, was that Soviets put one down here, and then NATO put one down here, and then the Soviets were like, that's interesting. They will, no, that's right, they put one down here. NATO put one down here, the Soviets put one down there. Then NATO did their second one and put it here. This is interesting because it gives, so this now, what this does is by putting these 2 down, it forces NATO, it forces the Warsaw Pact to spread its forces across 4 areas, because which one of these is going to be the serious effort? Well, probably this one, because there's a convoy in here. And so the Soviets are going to want to protect the convoy from any sort of standoff missile attacks or aircraft attacks or any of that nature. And plus, if I've got air superiority, I can put naval surveillance and ASW surveillance down, and that gives me some bonuses when we're doing things in that megahex. So the battle for this particular area became very deadly, and the Yanks and the Swedes won out. With a little help from the Norwegians and the Danes and the Dutch. This was not contested, so these 2 areas basically went to the Soviets. And I didn't put any aircraft here for the NATO force, but the WP had to, just in case, right? So that actually went away. That's not there, and these 2 can be here, but because there's no Soviet one there. So let's see. The shipping, this is where I think the NATO forces have the advantage, is as they're bringing in these task forces and these naval units, and they've got these guys on patrol. They can attempt to intercept the forces that the convoys. So the subs did that, and they actually did quite a good job and sunk one of the subs, sunk one of the ships that was shipping the supplies. So that's going to reduce the supplies for the turn for the Soviets as it comes in. That then impacts, well, if I'm not going to get those supplies that I potentially need, and I was going to fly in some other airborne units or some other vehicles, not vehicles, fly in some other troops, then do I still do that, or do I now bring in supplies? So it caused a little bit of a logistical problem for us. So we moved. So then, as the task forces came through, we had an opportunity to try and intercept with air here, and then we also had an opportunity to intercept with the Navy here, and both of those were mildly successful, combining. Let's see if I can get this unit here. Combining to put 2 step losses on this armored division. Now you might say, why is it a 3? Well, the Soviets. This is not the number of step losses it's taken. It's a marker we use to tell us what the DRM is going to be, because of the fact they've taken 2 step losses. I know that it's a 2. It's 2 step losses because it's a 1 on the other side, right? So it's a first step loss, second step loss, and for NATO, it's a 1 and a 2. They are more resilient. So there's just a DRM for that. I really feel like I'm doing a pretty crappy job of explaining this because I'm jumping in, assuming you know things. But this is the 3rd video, I think, on this game and in this particular scenario. And so you probably need to go back and watch some of the other stuff if you want to sort of get a better explanation of some of the mechanics. Otherwise, I'll be here for 2 hours trying to explain what's happened in the turn. So my apologies if none of this is clear. So significant damage on that division, which is really good for the NATO forces. The Alpine division was flown in on Anatol, whatever called, aircraft. And we brought in some supplies with a couple of choppers just to sort of boost things up. We brought in also, an engineering unit and a electronic warfare unit. That's all stacked in one of these 2 hexes here. So we're ready to make a bit of a push now. It's turn 3. There's only 5 turns. I actually am not even sure I'm going to be able to get all of the units that are eligible. I've got 2 more full divisions I could potentially bring in, and I just don't know how they get onto the board here into the gameplay and do something effective. Because when you're shipped, you land and you can't move after that. So you really can't move until the next turn. So if the dudes if I ship dudes on the 5th turn, they're not doing anything else other than holding a position, right? So these 2 guys next turn are going to be very aggressive. And in anticipation of that, I sent every single standoff long-range bomber I had and hit these units very heavily, and actually put step losses, 4 step losses, I believe, and 2, I only damaged 1 airfield. Actually, it's an airfield over here that's damaged. That one's damaged there. And really pounded the dickens out of these guys. These chaps took a step loss here, and yeah, they're down to low ammo as well. So they're in a bit of strife. And I was debating whether or not to make this sort of risky airborne attack here. I was going to use the Mi-24s to support that attack because of the very high combat factors. But it's kind of ineffective overkill. So what I decided to do is you do ground strikes against these units because their flak ratings are only D. And so all these guys survived. I need to stop playing with this, otherwise I'm going to make a mess here. Let's just put these back here. Right. Good enough for government work. Come on, baby, come on. I don't have any Plex, so the map kind of pops up here a little bit. My Plex is in storage somewhere, along with the Z and other things. All right, so I haven't really covered all the stuff that happened in this turn, but the machinations that you go through are really, really interesting and thought-provoking, and give you a great feel for and drive you to understand the capabilities of the different units you have, the different combinations of units that you can use, and how best to deploy them to, either set something up for the current turn or set something up for the next turn. I'm not good enough at this game to be thinking about setting something up for 2 turns from now. Right now, we're still really, this game, there's a lot of little nuanced rules, sort of sub rules that you need to be thoughtful about, and that I've caught myself making small errors along the way that, some of them end up being somewhat significant. Excuse me. So I've gone and rolled things back and then rolled forward as we've made little mistakes here and there. Just as you read through and you think you know a rule, and then you look at the sub point down. Oh, that's right. That also means this. So I've gone back and fixed a lot of those things as we've had the gameplay go on. The point now is we've got a hub of forces here. We've got, I think, 2 regiments in play, a brigade, 2 divisions on the ground, one with substantial losses. So that's going to hurt that formation when they get out to start attacking these units. The idea being that we're, as you probably recall, if you've watched or read any of the posts that we have out, we're trying to capture cities and ports for VPs here, and struggling at the moment to do so, but I think there'll be some momentum shift going on here, but that's going to be mitigated by all of these reinforcements arriving. Now, this naval force coming in here, lots of missile capability here. Look, there's an 8 rated missile unit there. That ship to ship is going to do some damage. And plus, I've got 4 highly effective submarine formations here, subs here that we can really put the hurt on. And now I've finally got some nice 11 evasion, 9 attack factor units that we can use to do naval attacks as well, and they're standoff as well, so they're not gonna suffer any foolishness or any flack from these guys. So lots of combat power coming in from the Germans, and then we've got some obviously U.S. and British Air Force coming in that will be very, very helpful. That's some stealth units there. All right, talk to you guys soon. We'll keep playing. It's on to the NATO turn.